She had saved over 2,000 hearts. She had operated in war zones. She had brought people back from death itself. But tonight, she was just a tired woman sleeping quietly in economy class. Nobody knew. Until a flight attendant grabbed the intercom and screamed. "Is there any medical professional on board?" Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. The Airbus A320 lifted off from Dubai International Airport at 11:40 p.m. on a Tuesday night. The runway lights disappeared quickly below the clouds as the aircraft climbed into the dark sky, heading toward London Heathrow. It was a 7-hour overnight flight, and most of the 174 passengers on board were already planning to sleep through it. The cabin lights dimmed slowly about 30 minutes after takeoff. Flight attendants moved through the aisles, offering blankets and small pillows. Passengers adjusted their seats, pulled on eye masks, and plugged in headphones. The gentle hum of the engine settled into a steady rhythm that many travelers found easier to sleep to than silence. In seat 22A, a woman near the window had already been asleep before the wheels left the ground. Her name was Dr. Maya Patel. She was 41 years old, and she looked completely ordinary. She wore a loose gray hoodie, soft black jogger pants, and white socks. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. No jewelry except small gold studs in her ears. No makeup. A worn paperback novel sat open on her lap, but she had not read a single word of it. She had fallen asleep the moment she sat down and buckled her belt. The passenger in 22B, a young man named Daniel who was traveling for a business conference, glanced at her when he sat down. He thought she looked exhausted in the way that some people do after very long days. He noticed the slight dark circles under her eyes, the way her shoulders dropped completely with each breath, the deep stillness of someone who truly needed rest. He made a quiet effort not to bump her arm when he reached for his own blanket. The flight attendant named Priya, walking slowly down the aisle during the first service, noticed the sleeping woman too. She held the drink tray a little steadier and stepped past row 22 without saying a word. The woman looked like she needed sleep more than she needed orange juice. Nobody on that aircraft had any reason to pay special attention to Dr. Maya Patel. Nobody knew that she had spent 15 years as a cardiovascular surgeon at one of the most demanding trauma hospitals in Mumbai. Nobody knew that she had performed over 2,000 open-heart surgeries. Nobody knew that she had worked in conflict zones for 2 years with an international medical organization, operating in field hospitals with broken equipment, no proper anesthesia sometimes, and patients who were already close to dying when they arrived. Nobody knew that she had restarted a man's heart with her bare hands in a tent during a monsoon when the defibrillator stopped working. She had retired from surgery 8 months ago. Not because she was old. Not because she had lost her ability. She had retired because she had watched her younger brother die of a sudden cardiac arrest in a hospital hallway, surrounded by doctors who could not save him quickly enough. The grief had not broken her love of medicine. But it had broken something else. She needed time. She needed quiet. The consulting job she had taken in London was simple. Review hospital protocols. Give lectures. Write recommendations. No operating table. No emergencies. Just steady, quiet work with no one's life in her hands. This flight was supposed to be the beginning of that quiet life. She slept deeply as the aircraft crossed over the Persian Gulf, over Iran, over Turkey, into the vast dark sky above Europe. She did not stir when mild turbulence rattled the overhead bin somewhere above the Black Sea. She did not wake when the cabin crew completed the second service and lowered the lights further. She did not move at all. But 5 hours and 20 minutes into the flight, everything changed. The man in seat 7C was named Gerald Hoffman. He was 63 years old, a retired German banker traveling to London to visit his daughter and newborn grandchild. He had seemed perfectly fine during the flight. He had eaten his meal, watched half of a movie, and fallen into a light sleep. Then, at 4:17 in the morning, Gerald Hoffman grabbed his chest. He woke up with a feeling he had never experienced before. A crushing, terrible pressure directly in the center of his chest, like something enormous was sitting on him. Pain shot up his left arm and into his jaw. He felt dizzy. His skin turned wet with cold sweat. He tried to speak but only managed a short, strange noise that sounded nothing like his own voice. His wife, Elsa, was asleep in the seat beside him. The noise woke her. She looked at her husband and screamed. The sound cut through the quiet cabin like a knife. Heads turned. People woke up in confusion. A flight attendant at the front of the cabin was on her feet immediately, moving quickly down the aisle. Another attendant came from the back. Within seconds, 4 crew members were gathered around row 7. Gerald was conscious but barely. His face was the wrong color. His breathing was shallow and fast. He kept pressing his hand hard against his chest, his eyes wide with something between pain and terror. The senior flight attendant, a tall woman named Sophie, had done emergency training. She had trained for this. But training in a classroom and facing a real man who might be dying in front of you, at 37,000 feet over France, with his wife sobbing beside him and 170 passengers staring, that was different. Sophie reached for the intercom. She pressed the button. Her voice came out louder than she intended, sharp with urgency that she could not fully control. The words rang through every speaker in the aircraft from the front bulkhead to the last row of economy class. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a medical situation on board. We urgently need any doctor, nurse, or medical professional to please identify yourself and come to row 7 immediately. Any doctor or nurse on board, please come forward now. She released the button. The cabin was silent for exactly 2 seconds. Then it erupted. Passengers woke up alarmed. Several people gasped. A child near the back started crying. People began talking to each other in frightened voices. A man 2 rows behind the Hoffman stood up and looked over the seat, then sat back down, pale. Elsa was holding her husband's hand with both of hers, repeating his name over and over in German, her voice breaking each time. Sophie stood in the aisle, watching the cabin, waiting. 7 seconds passed. 10 seconds. 12. No one came forward. Sophie reached for the intercom again, and this time her voice carried something close to desperation. Please, if there is anyone with any medical training on this aircraft, we need you at row 7 right now. Any medical professional, please come forward immediately. In seat 22A, Dr. Maya Patel's eyes opened. Not slowly. Not the gradual way that most people wake from deep sleep. Her eyes opened the way they used to open in the call room at 3 a.m. when the pager went off, completely, immediately, fully awake. She sat up straight. She heard the words still echoing faintly from the speakers above her head. Her brain processed them before she was even fully aware she was awake. Medical situation. Row 7. Come forward. For one single moment, she sat still. She had not stood at a patient's side in 8 months. She had told herself she was done with emergencies. She had specifically chosen this job, this quiet life, precisely to escape this feeling, the feeling of being needed in a way that was absolute, the feeling where hesitation was the same as failure. She thought of her brother. Then she stood up. She moved into the aisle. Daniel in 22B had to pull his knees back quickly as she stepped past him with purpose. She was not running, but she was moving with a particular kind of speed that people in medicine develop, controlled, direct, no wasted movement. She reached row 7 in under 15 seconds. Sophie saw her coming and felt the first real wave of relief since the crisis began. There was something in the way this woman in a gray hoodie walked toward them that was different from how a frightened passenger walks toward a problem. She walked toward it like it was hers to handle. I'm a doctor, Maya said quietly, looking at Sophie. Cardiovascular surgeon, retired. What's his status? Sophie blinked. He woke up grabbing his chest. Pain in his left arm. sweating heavily. He said the pain is crushing. Maya was already looking at Gerald. She crouched in the aisle beside him and put her fingers on his wrist without asking permission, because asking permission in this situation was a luxury neither of them had. His pulse was rapid and irregular. That told her something important immediately. "Gerald," she said clearly, looking directly at him. "My name is Maya. I'm a heart doctor. I'm going to help you. Can you squeeze my hand?" He squeezed weakly. "Good. The pain in your chest, does it feel like pressure, like something heavy?" He nodded. His jaw was tight. "Does the pain go anywhere else?" "Your arm. Your jaw." "Both," he managed. Just that one word, but it was enough. Maya looked up at Sophie. "I need your emergency medical kit. All of it. Right now. And I need aspirin. Do you have aspirin on this aircraft?" "Yes, we have a medical kit and." "Get it. Quickly." Sophie moved immediately. Another attendant was already moving toward the front of the plane. Maya turned back to Gerald. She checked his breathing. She looked at the color of his lips. She pressed gently on his collarbone area, feeling for anything. Her hands remembered exactly what to do. 15 years of muscle memory did not forget in 8 months. She looked at Elsa. "How long ago did this start?" "Maybe 4 minutes," Elsa said, her voice shaking. "He made a sound, I woke up, and he was like this." "Has he ever had chest pain before? Any heart problems? Does he take any medication?" "He takes blood pressure medicine. Ramipril. And a cholesterol tablet. But he has never had anything like this." "Never." Elsa's eyes were wet. "Is it his heart? Please tell me." "I'm going to do everything I can for him," Maya said. That was the truth she could give right now. Sophie returned with the emergency medical kit. Maya unzipped it quickly. Her eyes moved across the contents with professional speed. She was cataloging, assessing, prioritizing. There was an AED. Good. There were oxygen supplies. There were basic medications including aspirin. There was a blood pressure monitor. There was a small pulse oximeter. Not a hospital. But it was something. "I need you to get me a glass of water," Maya said to Elsa. Then to Gerald, "Gerald, I need you to chew this aspirin. Don't swallow it whole, chew it. This is important." He took it and chewed slowly, his face still tight with pain. Maya put the pulse oximeter on his finger. 91%. Lower than it should be, but not catastrophic yet. She attached the blood pressure cuff. His pressure was high, 168/104. She watched the numbers and felt the information arranging itself into a picture in her mind. Everything pointed in the same direction. She looked up at Sophie. "I need to speak to the captain. Right now." Sophie reached for the phone on the cabin wall, spoke briefly, and handed it to Maya. "Captain, my name is Dr. Maya Patel. I'm a cardiovascular surgeon. You have a passenger in row 7 who is showing strong signs of a myocardial infarction, a heart attack. He is conscious and his oxygen is stable at 91%, but this situation can deteriorate rapidly. I need to know 2 things. First, what is our current position? Second, what is the nearest airport with cardiac emergency facilities?" The captain's voice was calm and measured in the way that experienced pilots learn to be calm. "Doctor, we are currently over southern France, approximately 40 minutes from Lyon. Lyon has a major hospital with cardiac facilities. We can divert and land there in approximately 40 to 45 minutes. "Divert," Maya said without hesitation. "He needs a cath lab. He needs it as fast as possible. Every minute matters with this kind of event." "Understood. I'm initiating the diversion now. We will be on the ground in Lyon in approximately 40 minutes. Thank you. She handed the phone back to Sophie and returned her full attention to Gerald. 40 minutes. In cardiac medicine, 40 minutes can be the difference between a man who walks out of a hospital and a man who does not. Maya had seen it too many times. She knew exactly what could go wrong in 40 minutes and what she needed to do to keep it from going wrong. She stayed crouched beside him in the aisle and began talking to him in a calm, steady voice. Not because there was nothing to do, but because keeping him calm was itself something to do. Anxiety increased the heart's demand for oxygen. Panic made everything worse. Her voice was the medicine she could administer right now. Gerald, I want you to breathe slowly for me. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Like this. She demonstrated. Good. Just like that. He watched her and followed her breathing. His eyes were frightened but they were focused on her. You have a strong pulse, she told him. Your oxygen is holding. We are landing very soon at an airport close to a hospital. You are going to be seen by a cardiac team who will have exactly what you need. Am I going to die? He asked. His voice was quiet and direct. He was the kind of man who asked the real question. Maya looked at him steadily. Not if I can help it. Elsa made a small sound. Maya glanced at her. Elsa, I need you to stay calm for him. Can you do that? Elsa pressed her lips together and nodded. Sophie had cleared the passengers from the seats closest to row 7, creating a small space. She had also quietly updated the cabin. The aircraft was diverting to Lyon due to a medical emergency. Passengers should remain seated with seatbelts fastened. The announcement had settled the frightened whispers into a tense, waiting quiet. At the back of the aircraft, passengers were speaking in low voices. The story was traveling row by row. A man was having a heart attack, a doctor had appeared from economy class, and the plane was being diverted. In row 18, 2 passengers were quietly debating whether the woman in the gray hoodie was really a doctor. One of them thought she looked too young. The other said she moved like a doctor, which he couldn't really explain but which was true. 20 minutes into the wait, Gerald's condition shifted. The pulse oximeter dropped to 88%. His breathing changed, slightly faster, slightly more shallow. His color, which had been bad before, became worse. Grayish. Wrong. Maya had been watching for this. She reached immediately into the medical kit, assembled the oxygen mask with practiced hands, and fitted it over Gerald's face. Just breathe normally. This will help. She looked at the AED beside her. She did not reach for it yet, but she registered exactly where it was and how quickly she could access it. Sophie, she said quietly, so Elsa would not fully hear. I need you to stand here and watch this monitor. If the number on the pulse oximeter goes below 85, tell me immediately. Do not hesitate, even if you think I might already know. Tell me. Sophie nodded, her face serious. Maya gently took Gerald's wrist again. His pulse was still irregular but not worsening. She thought about what she had access to and what she did not. She thought through every possibility, every branch of what might happen, in the systematic way that surgeons learn to think, not with panic, but with the calm of someone running through a decision tree. She talked to him. About Lyon, about how good French hospitals were, about the fact that his wife was right beside him and had not let go of his hand once. She talked in the even, unalarming way that she used to talk to patients before she opened their chests, not pretending everything was perfect, but projecting the specific kind of confidence that said, I know what I am doing, and I am not afraid. Gerald looked at her between shallow breaths. At some point he said, You are very young to be a heart surgeon. I started young, she said. Are you retired? The question came out slowly. I was, she said. I'm not sure anymore. He almost smiled. It was very slight, and it cost him, but it was there. Elsa saw it and made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. The aircraft began its descent toward Lyon 32 minutes after Maya had spoken to the captain. She felt the change in altitude through the pressure in her ears. Outside the small oval window in row 7, the darkness was beginning to give way to the first grey suggestion of dawn over the French countryside. City lights appeared below, organized into the familiar grids of a mid-sized European city. Gerald's oxygen had stabilized at 89% with the mask on. Not improving, but not falling. His pulse was still irregular. He was conscious, alert enough to squeeze Elsa's hand, and still breathing. He was holding. Sophie came beside Maya and spoke quietly. Airport emergency services have been notified. There will be a full medical team on the runway when we land. Ambulance, paramedics, cardiac unit on standby. Good, Maya said. Make sure they know he's been presenting for approximately 50 minutes, probable STEMI, oxygen maintained at 89% on supplemental, blood pressure was 168/104 initially, aspirin administered. They need to move him directly to the cath lab. Sophie was writing rapidly on a small notepad. Got it. How long to landing? Approximately 8 minutes. 8 minutes. Maya looked at Gerald. He was looking back at her. She thought that in a different life, the life she had decided to step away from, this was every day. A patient who needed her. A situation with no perfect solution, only the best available one. The weight of it, and the strange clarity that came with it. She had not missed it. She had not missed the exhaustion or the grief or the relentless demand of it. But she had missed this. This specific moment when everything fell away except what needed to be done, and she was the person who knew how to do it. The aircraft touched down at Lyon Saint-Exupéry Airport at 4:59 a.m. The moment the wheels hit the runway, Maya felt something release slightly in her chest. They were on the ground. Emergency services were outside. Gerald had made it to the runway. The hardest part was almost over. The medical team came on board within 90 seconds of the aircraft stopping. 4 paramedics, 2 emergency physicians, a stretcher, and equipment that was significantly better than what Maya had been working with. She gave a rapid, precise handover standing in the aisle of the plane, the kind of handover she had given 1,000 times walking out of an operating room. Timed, organized, complete. The French emergency physician, a compact woman about Maya's age, listened and nodded and asked 2 sharp questions, which Maya answered immediately. The physician looked at Maya with recognition, not personal recognition, but professional recognition. She could tell she was speaking to someone who had done this before. You kept him stable through that, the physician said. It was not a compliment exactly. It was more like an acknowledgement between colleagues. He did most of the work, Maya said. They moved Gerald out on the stretcher. Elsa walked beside it, still holding his hand. At the door of the aircraft, just before they carried him down the steps to the ambulance, Gerald turned his head and looked back into the cabin. Maya was standing in the aisle. She raised her hand. He raised his. Then they took him down the steps and into the waiting ambulance, which pulled away immediately, its lights already turning. Maya stood in the aisle for a moment after they were gone. The other passengers, most of whom had been awake through the entire landing and emergency transfer, sat in quiet rows watching her. She became aware of them gradually, the way you become aware of a room when you come back to yourself after focusing very hard on something. A woman near the front started clapping first. Just her, alone, with her hands meeting softly in the early morning quiet. Then someone else joined. Then another. Then the whole aircraft, all 174 passengers, the ones who had been asleep and then terrified and then waiting, the ones who had watched a woman in a gray hoodie from economy class spend 50 minutes keeping a man alive with whatever she could find in a small zippered kit, they were all clapping. Maya did not know where to look. She was not a person who enjoyed being watched. She had spent her entire career in operating rooms where no one cheered, where success was simply a man waking up. Sophie was standing nearby, and her eyes were red at the corners. You saved his life, Sophie said. Maya considered arguing. She thought about all the things she could say, that the aspirin helped, that the oxygen helped, that the diversion to Lyon was the real decision that mattered, that Gerald's own heart had done most of the fighting. Instead she just said, "We'll know more when he's in the hospital." A young woman in row 12 raised her hand shyly, the way a student raises a hand in class. "Excuse me," she said. "Are you really a heart surgeon?" "I was," Maya said. "Why did you stop?" The cabin was quiet enough that everyone heard the question. It was too personal a question from a stranger. But the young woman had asked it with such genuine curiosity, not rudeness, that Maya did not feel irritated. She felt something else, the question landing somewhere soft inside her. "I needed a break," Maya said. "Sometimes even doctors need to step away." The young woman nodded slowly. Then she said, very quietly, "I'm glad you were on this flight." A man near the window said the same thing in a different language. Maya thought it was Italian. An older couple across the aisle both said it together in English, their voices overlapping. One by one, in different accents and different words, passengers said versions of the same thing. Not applause this time. Just voices, one after another, simple and honest. Maya stood in the aisle and listened to all of them. She had spent 8 months trying to become invisible. Trying to become someone who did not carry other people's lives. Standing in that cabin, she understood for the first time that she had never actually wanted that. She had only wanted the pain to stop. And pain, she was learning slowly, was not the same thing as purpose. She pressed her lips together. She nodded once, to no one in particular and to everyone. Then she walked back to seat 22A, sat down, and picked up her unread paperback novel. The aircraft stayed on the ground in Lyon for another 40 minutes while fuel was checked, paperwork was completed, and the remaining passengers were given water and small snacks. Most of them did not sleep again. They were too alert, too aware in the way that people become after they have been close to something serious. Daniel in 22B looked at Maya when she sat down. She looked back at him calmly. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I'm fine," she said. "Were you okay during all that?" He blinked. "I'm fine. I didn't know what was happening at first." "Nobody does," she said. "That's why it's frightening." He was quiet for a moment. Then, "Are you really a cardiovascular surgeon?" "I was," she said. And then, quieter, "I might be again." She did not explain that. She looked out the window at the Lyon runway slowly getting lighter as the sun began coming up in the east, and she thought about Gerald's face when he had raised his hand from the stretcher. She thought about what it felt like to have done something that mattered, and she thought about her brother, and she thought about 8 months of quiet that had felt like relief but had also felt, sometimes, like a kind of disappearing. She did not reach any large conclusion. She simply sat with it, in the grey dawn over a French airport, with a paperback she still hadn't opened in her lap. The aircraft took off again from Lyon at 6:22 a.m. It landed at London Heathrow at 7:44 a.m., 2 hours and 4 minutes behind the original schedule. When the seatbelt sign turned off and passengers began collecting their bags, something happened that almost never happens on commercial flights. People did not rush immediately into the aisle. They waited. And as Maya stood up and reached into the overhead bin for her small carry-on bag, she found that the passengers on both sides of the aisle had stepped back slightly, making a clear path for her. She walked to the front of the aircraft. Sophie was standing at the door. She reached out and touched Maya's arm gently as she passed. She did not say anything. She did not need to. Maya walked off the aircraft, through the jet bridge, and into the wide, bright, busy arrivals hall of Heathrow. She took the tube into the city. She found her hotel, checked in, and sat on the bed. She had one email to write. To the hospital in Mumbai where she had trained, where she still knew the chief of cardiology personally. She opened her laptop. She sat for a long time, thinking about what to say. Then she typed. "I think I'm ready to come back." Not full surgery yet. But back. If you have something appropriate, I would like to talk. She sent it before she could change her mind. Then she lay down on the hotel bed, still in her gray hoodie and black jogger pants, and fell asleep almost instantly. 3 weeks later, Maya received a phone call from Lyon. Elsa Hoffman's voice was bright and warm and slightly tearful all at once. She spoke in careful English, occasionally searching for the right word, but the meaning was always clear. Gerald had undergone emergency coronary angioplasty the morning he arrived at the hospital. One artery had been 94% blocked. The cardiologists told Elsa afterward that if he had not received aspirin quickly and been kept calm during the flight, and if the aircraft had continued to London instead of diverting, the outcome would almost certainly have been very different. Gerald was at home now. He was tired but well. He was doing cardiac rehabilitation twice a week. He had been cleared to meet his new grandchild. He talks about you, Elsa said. He tells everyone, at the rehabilitation clinic, at the coffee shop, to our daughter, about the doctor who was sleeping in economy class. Maya laughed at that. A real, quiet laugh. How is he really? She asked. He walks every morning now, Elsa said. Something he never did before. He says you told him that every minute matters, and he thinks about that when he does not want to get out of bed. That's wonderful, Maya said. There was a small pause. He would like to write you a letter, Elsa said. A real letter, on paper. Is that all right? I would like that very much, Maya said. She gave Elsa the address of the hospital in Mumbai, where she had started back part-time 2 weeks earlier. A consulting role at first. Reviewing complex cases, working with younger surgeons, doing exactly the kind of steady, careful work that she had thought she wanted when she imagined a quiet life, except now it was inside a hospital again, and she found that she did not mind. The letter arrived 11 days later. It was written by hand in slightly formal English, clearly composed with care. Gerald wrote about his grandchild, whose name was Lena. He wrote that Lena had her mother's eyes. He wrote that he had been present for Lena's first smile, which he would have missed if things had gone differently on that flight. At the end of the letter, he wrote, I do not know why you were on that particular flight, in that particular seat, on that particular night. But I am glad that you were. And I am glad that you did not stay asleep. Maya read the letter twice. Then she folded it carefully and placed it inside the cover of the paperback novel she still had not finished reading. She thought she might read it soon. 6 months after the Lyon diversion, aviation medicine organizations updated their guidelines for managing in-flight cardiac emergencies. One small but important change was added to the recommended protocol for flight crew. When requesting medical assistance over the intercom, crew should not limit the announcement to doctors and nurses, but should also specifically ask for surgeons, including retired or inactive ones, as their specialized training often proves critical in time-sensitive situations. The guideline change was proposed following documentation of 3 incidents in the preceding year where retired medical professionals had provided decisive care during in-flight emergencies. Maya was not named in the document. She did not know about the guideline change for several months, and when a colleague mentioned it to her, she read the relevant paragraph once and set the paper down. She had a patient waiting. She put on her mask, and she walked in.